She thought she could run from him, from the Mafia king, from the man whose child she carried. But love isn't what Tommaso wants from Chiara. Obedience is. And when he finds her, the price of escape will be far more dangerous than the prison she left behind. Welcome to Book 2 of the Mafia King's Accidental Heir.
Neutral ground was a lie men told each other, so they could pretend blood wouldn't be spilled. I stood at the window as dawn bled slowly over the city, gray light crawling between buildings like it was afraid of what waited below. In 12 hours, Chiara would be standing in the open with my enemies watching her breathe. In 12 hours, someone would try to kill me. Again. Behind me, the penthouse was quiet, too quiet. My men had rotated shifts without sound. Weapons were checked, then checked again. Routes memorized. Exit plans layered on top of contingency plans. And still, none of it felt like enough. Because none of it accounted for the one variable I couldn't control. Chiara. I heard her before I saw her. Soft footsteps. Careful. Like she'd learned the rhythm of my world and was trying not to disrupt it. Tommaso. Her voice cut through the silence sharper than any gunshot. I turned. She stood in the doorway wrapped in a dark robe, hair loose, eyes tired but clear. One hand rested over her stomach like it belonged there now, as natural as breathing. My chest tightened. You should be sleeping, I said. So should you. I didn't argue. There was no point. She stepped farther into the room, stopping a few feet away. Close enough that I could smell her soap. Clean. Familiar. Dangerous. You've been planning all night, she said. Yes. You're not telling me everything. No, her jaw set. I asked you not to do that anymore. I crossed my arms, forcing myself to stay where I was. And I told you knowing everything will only make today harder. Her eyes flashed. Harder for who? The answer sat heavy on my tongue. For me. Because the more she knew, the harder it would be to lie to her. And lying was the only thing keeping her from seeing just how bad this could get. They want me dead, she said quietly. Yes. And they want me alive. Yes. That means I'm leverage, she continued. It means if they can't kill you cleanly, they'll try to break you instead. I didn't answer. She took that as confirmation. Tommaso, she whispered, stepping closer. Are you walking me into a trap on purpose? I met her gaze. Didn't look away. Didn't soften it. Yes. Her breath caught, but she didn't step back. Why? She asked. Because they already built it, I said. I'm just deciding where it snaps shut. She stared at me like she was trying to reconcile the man who'd put his body in front of hers with the one saying this now. And if it snaps on us? She asked. It won't. That's not an answer. I exhaled slowly, then said the truth I'd been avoiding. Because if I refuse this meeting, they escalate. They stop pretending. They come for you again, somewhere I can't predict. Her eyes filled, but she blinked the tears back. Strong. Always strong. So this is you choosing the battlefield. Yes. And choosing me as bait. The word hit hard. I stepped forward before I could stop myself. You are not bait. What am I then? She demanded. I hesitated. A mistake. Everything, I said finally. And that's the problem. Silence fell between us, heavy and charged. She reached for my hand. I let her. Her fingers curled around mine, warm and real, grounding me more than any plan ever could. I need you to promise me something, she said. I already knew what it would be. I don't make promises, I replied. Make this one, she said. If it comes down to a choice, your life or revenge, you choose to live. My jaw tightened. Chiara, choose us, she interrupted. Choose the baby. The word us hit harder than baby ever could. Because us meant future. It meant survival beyond today. I pulled my hand free gently and lifted her chin, so she had to look at me. I will do everything in my power to come back to you, I said. That's not what I asked. No, I agreed. But it's the only promise I won't break. She searched my face, like she was memorizing it in case this was the last time. Then she nodded once. Then I'll do my part. What part is that? She took a breath, steeled herself. I'll walk into that meeting like I'm not afraid. My chest tightened painfully. You are afraid. Yes, she said. But I won't let them see it. She stepped closer, pressing her forehead lightly against my chest. Not asking, just taking comfort where she could. For a moment, I let myself rest my chin on her head. Just a moment. Because moments like this were how men like me got weak. And weakness got people killed. A knock came at the door. Luca's voice. Tight. Focused. Boss. It's time. I closed my eyes briefly. When I opened them, Chiara was already stepping back, her face composed, walls up. The transformation terrified me, because she was learning too quickly how to survive in my world. I turned to Luca. Any new intel? Yes, he said. Neutral ground changed. My blood iced over. To where? A private gallery on the river, Luca replied. Owned by a shell company tied to Romano money. Of course it was. They control the exits, Luca added. And the sight lines. Chiara stiffened beside me. I nodded once. Good. Luca frowned. Good. Yes, I said. It means they're confident. Confidence made men careless. I looked at Chiara. We leave in 20 minutes. She squared her shoulders. I'm ready. I didn't believe her, but I admired her for saying it anyway. As Luca turned to go, my phone buzzed. One message. No number. Bring her. Come alone. I showed Chiara the screen. Her lips pressed together. You won't. No, I agreed. I'll bring an army they can't see. She reached for me again, gripping my sleeve. Tommaso. I looked down at her. If this goes wrong, she said, voice steady despite everything, don't let them turn me into a weapon against you. I cupped her face, my thumbs brushing beneath her eyes. They won't get the chance. Because if they tried, there wouldn't be enough bodies in the river to count. Outside, engines started. The city woke up, unaware it was about to witness a war disguised as a meeting. And as I led my wife toward the door, one truth burned through every calculation I'd made. If they thought killing me would end this, they had no idea what I would become if they failed.
The car doors locked with a sound that felt permanent. Not loud, not dramatic, just final. I sat in the back seat of the armored sedan, hands folded over my stomach, trying to remember what it felt like to exist in a world where meetings didn't come with exit strategies and men didn't carry guns because they loved someone. Tommaso sat across from me, posture relaxed in a way I was starting to recognize as dangerous. He looked like a man heading to a business dinner, not a trap designed to end his life. That scared me more than his rage ever had. You don't have to do this, I said quietly. He didn't look at me. Yes, I do. The city slid past the windows. Bridges, water, early morning traffic pretending this was an ordinary day. Somewhere, people were buying coffee, kissing goodbye, making plans that assumed tomorrow was guaranteed. I wondered if I'd ever live like that again. The baby moved, a sharp, grounding flutter. I pressed my palm down, breathing through the fear. We're okay. Right now, we're okay. Tommaso's gaze dropped to the movement despite himself. Seatbelt, he said. I blinked. What? You're not braced, he repeated, already leaning forward to pull the belt across me himself. The tenderness of the motion, so out of place, so careful, nearly broke me. You think about everything, I murmured. I think about what I can control, he replied. And the rest? His jaw tightened. I eliminate. The car slowed. My stomach clenched as I looked out the window and saw the building. The gallery rose from the riverfront like a polished lie, glass and steel, elegant lines, soft lighting already glowing inside. Art banners fluttered gently in the breeze, announcing a private viewing that felt like mockery. Neutral ground. I almost laughed. Tommaso exited first. Men I barely noticed fanned out, invisible, unless you knew how to look. He turned back to me, offering his hand. I took it. The moment my feet hit the pavement, the air changed. Thicker, charged. Eyes were on us. I felt them before I saw them. Inside, the gallery was vast and white, walls lined with modern art, abstract violence disguised as beauty. A long corridor led deeper inside, where voices murmured and footsteps echoed. Romano men. I knew their posture, their arrogance, their certainty that blood always came back to blood. And then I saw him. My brother stood near the center of the room, hands clasped behind his back like a king, waiting to receive tribute. Dark suit. Calm expression, the same eyes I remembered from childhood, sharp, calculating, already weighing what I was worth now. My chest tightened. Chiara, he said, smiling as if this were a family reunion. You look well. Tommaso's grip tightened around my hand. She is, Tommaso said evenly, and she will remain so. My brother's gaze slid to him, assessing. You're not alone. Tommaso smiled without warmth. Neither are you. The tension snapped tight. I took a breath and did the thing I'd promised. I didn't hide. I stepped half a pace forward, still within Tommaso's reach, but visible, unmistakable. I didn't choose this war, I said, but I won't pretend I don't exist in it. My brother's brow lifted slightly. You never did like pretending. No, I agreed. I liked surviving. A few men shifted, weapons adjusted beneath jackets. The gallery felt smaller with every heartbeat. My brother studied my stomach openly now. So it's true. Yes, I said. It is. He looked back at Tommaso. You're brave, putting your air in the open. I'm decisive, Tommaso replied. There's a difference, my brother laughed softly. You always did like control. And you always liked using people. Tommaso shot back. The words cut clean. I felt the baby move again, stronger this time, and panic flared. Stay calm. Stay visible. Stay alive. My brother stepped closer to me. Tommaso moved instantly, placing himself between us. Don't, Tommaso said quietly. I just want to talk to my sister, my brother replied. Alone. No, Tommaso said again, louder this time. Final. I reached out, touching Tommaso's arm. Let me speak, I said softly. Just words. He hesitated. Just a second. It felt like an eternity. Then he stepped half a pace back, but didn't release my hand. My brother leaned in, lowering his voice. You're pregnant with this child, he said. Do you understand what that makes you? Yes, I replied. A mother, he scoffed. It makes you leverage. I know, I said, but not yours. His eyes hardened. You chose him over your blood. I chose life, I said, something you've never valued. Silence rippled outward. My brother straightened. This doesn't end well. No, I agreed. It never does. That was when I heard it. A sharp crack. Glass shattered somewhere behind us. Shouting erupted. Tommaso's arm wrapped around me, pulling me back hard as men surged forward, weapons flashing, chaos exploding through the gallery like it had been waiting for permission. Down! Someone yelled. Gunfire tore through the air. Tommaso shielded me with his body, dragging me behind a marble pillar as bullets shattered art and lies alike. My ears rang. My heart slammed. This was never a meeting, I gasped. Tommaso's voice was iron at my ear. No, it was an execution. A man fell 20 feet away, blood pooling on white floor. Screams. Orders. Return fire. The gallery was a war zone now. I clutched my stomach, terror clawing up my throat. The baby. I've got you, Tommaso said fiercely. Move when I say move. Another explosion rocked the room, smoke filling the air. Through the chaos, I saw my brother retreating toward a side exit, protected by his men. He turned once, just once, and our eyes met. There was no regret in his gaze, only calculation. Tommaso fired. The shot missed. Intentionally or not, I couldn't tell. Then everything collapsed into noise and motion as Tommaso pulled me into a back corridor, men closing in around us. As we ran, one truth crystallized with terrifying clarity. This wasn't about territory. It wasn't about power. It was about forcing Tommaso to choose. And as bullets chased us through the smoke, I realized something that made my blood run cold. The trap hadn't been set to kill him. It had been set to make sure he couldn't save both of us. And whatever choice he made next would define the rest of our lives.
Gunfire rewrote the gallery into a graveyard of sound. I dragged Chiara through smoke and splintered glass, my arm locked around her waist, my body angled to take whatever came next. Men shouted behind us, Romano voices, Pialo voices, the difference meaningless once bullets started flying. Left, I snapped into my earpiece. Stairwell B. Now. We turned hard into a service corridor, just as rounds chewed into the wall where Chiara's head had been a second earlier. Plaster dust burst like breath from a lung. I shoved her forward. Keep moving, I ordered. Her steps were short but fast. She didn't stumble. She didn't scream. God help me. She was braver than half the men I paid to bleed. The stairwell door slammed behind us. I kicked the release, jamming it with my heel, then took the stairs 2 at a time, pulling her with me. My men closed ranks around us, silent, lethal, practiced. Halfway down, my phone vibrated. Luca. Speak, I barked. They cut the river exit, he said. Boats compromised. Snipers on the opposite bank. I swore under my breath. Who fed them our routes? Working it, Luca replied. But, Tommaso, this wasn't Romano improvisation. The timing was exact. Meaning someone had planned for my contingency. Meaning someone had known my mind. We burst out onto a lower floor and into another corridor. This one narrower, lined with storage rooms and steel doors. The lights flickered. Smoke crept low like a living thing. Chiara gasped, one hand flying to her stomach. I stopped us in the shadow of a door, bracing my forearm against the wall as my men pushed past to secure the exit. Talk to me, I said low and close. Pain. She shook her head. No, just fear. Good. Fear was survivable. A shot rang out nearby. Then another. Closer. I shifted, placing my body fully in front of hers. Eyes on me, I said. Breathe with me. She did. In out. In out. I could feel her shaking through my jacket. I could feel my own pulse trying to tear free of my ribs. A guard stumbled into view, bleeding from the shoulder. Boss, Romano men are flanking from the loading bay. Hold them, I said. 30 seconds. He nodded and vanished back into chaos. I turned back to Chiara. We're changing routes. Her eyes widened. Where? Up, I said. Roof access through maintenance. That's not. I know, I cut in. Trust me. Trust. The word scraped. She nodded anyway. We moved again, up a narrow ladder slick with condensation. I went first, then reached down and hauled her up, careful, precise. Her breath hitched as she climbed, but she didn't slow. On the roof, the wind hit us hard, cold, sharp, clean compared to the smoke below. The river glinted black under the city lights. Sirens wailed somewhere far away, too far to matter. Helicopter, she asked, scanning. Negative, I said. Too visible. Another vibration at my wrist. Luca again. His voice was tight now. Tommaso, we've got confirmation. Say it. The intruder from last night, the one silenced in custody, he was killed with a suppressed round fired from the west stairwell. I already knew what he was going to say. That stairwell is controlled by our internal security, Luca finished. Your internal security. The betrayal landed clean and cold. Names started lining up in my head. Faces. Histories. Debts I'd forgiven because I believed loyalty was a ledger that balanced eventually. I was wrong. Get me the name, I said. A beat. Then, it's Raphael. My blood went ice. Raphael had been with me since the beginning. Raphael had bled for me. Raphael had been there the night I lost everything. The night my first family died. I closed my eyes for half a second. Where is he? I said. Unknown, Luca replied. He vanished during the gallery hit. Of course he had. A sound cut through the wind, a shout from the adjacent roof. A shape moved near the edge. Romano sniper. I shoved Chiara down behind a vent as a round cracked past where her head had been. I returned fire without looking, muscle memory taking over. The shape dropped out of sight. Chiara clutched my sleeve. Tommaso. I know, I said. Stay down. Another message buzzed my phone. Not Luca this time. Unknown number. You brought her. Good. My jaw tightened. Another message followed, immediate. Now choose. I scanned the rooftop, the neighboring buildings, the river below. Too many angles. Too many eyes. What does that mean? Chiara whispered, seeing my face change. I didn't answer. The third message came through like a blade slid between my ribs. The car or the boat? I looked at the map in my head. The armored car waiting 3 blocks south. The backup boat we'd repositioned after the first route was burned. Both compromised. Both predictable. Both traps. They're forcing your hand, Chiara said, voice steady despite everything. They want to see what you protect. They already know, I replied. Another shot rang out, closer. My men returned fire from the opposite roof. The city held its breath. I keyed. My earpiece. Luca, I want a ghost route. A pause. That's risky. So is breathing, I said. Do it. We'll lose visual, he warned. Then don't lose the sound, I snapped. Stay on my voice. I turned to Chiara, crouching in front of her, forcing her to look at me. We're not taking the car or the boat. Her brow furrowed. Then how do we disappear, I said. For 10 minutes. 10 minutes in a city like this might as well have been a lifetime. Another bullet pinged off metal nearby. Can you run? I asked her. Yes, she said without hesitation. I nodded once. When I say go, you go where I point. You don't look back. And you? I'll be right behind you. She searched my face, fear and trust warring. Promise. I didn't. I leaned in, pressing my forehead to hers, the wind tearing at us, the city roaring below. Whatever happens, I said quietly, remember this. None of this is your fault. Her breath caught. Tommaso, go, I ordered. We sprinted. Across the roof. Down a fire escape. Through a maintenance door I'd memorized years ago when I was planning how to kill the man who owned this building. Irony was a cruel companion. We burst into a narrow alley lit by a single flickering lamp. The sound of the city swallowed us. Traffic, horns, sirens, life continuing like nothing was wrong. A van screeched to a stop at the alley mouth. Wrong van. I pulled Chiara back just as the side door slid open and a man stepped out with a gun raised. Raphael. His face was calm, almost sad. Boss, he said, you should have taken the boat. Rage sharpened my vision into something precise and surgical. You sold me, I said. I sold the idea of you, he corrected. Men like us don't get endings. We get replacements. Chiara's hand tightened on my jacket. Raphael's gaze flicked to her stomach. Beautiful work, though. Air and all. I fired. He went down hard, the shot clean and final. The van peeled away, tires screaming. For a moment, the alley was quiet. Then Chiara made a small, broken sound. I turned and saw blood. Not from her. From me. A dark stain spreading across my side where a round had caught me on the roof, hidden by adrenaline and movement. Her eyes went wide. You're hurt. I waved it off. It's nothing. She pressed her hands to the wound anyway, panic flaring. You're bleeding. I'm alive, I said. That's enough. Her hands trembled as she looked up at me. They wanted you to choose. I nodded. I chose wrong. No, she said fiercely. You chose us. Sirens wailed closer now, real ones. Police. The wrong kind of attention. I pulled her close, steadying her, steadying myself. This isn't over, I said. Your brother won't stop. She swallowed. Neither will you. A thin smile touched my mouth. No, because now I knew the truth. This war wasn't about territory. It was about inheritance. And someone wanted to make sure my child never lived long enough to claim it. As the sirens closed in and my blood soaked into the concrete, one certainty burned through the pain. Book 2 wouldn't be about survival. It would be about annihilation.
Blood looks different when it belongs to the man you love. It's darker than you expect. Thicker. It stains everything it touches and refuses to be ignored, like it knows it carries weight, consequence, history. Tommaso was still standing, still breathing, still trying to convince me the spreading red beneath my hands was nothing. It went through, he said calmly, as if that made it harmless. Didn't lodge. You're bleeding, I snapped, panic slicing through my voice. You don't get to decide that's nothing. Sirens wailed closer, bouncing off brick walls and metal dumpsters, compressing the alley into something tight and dangerous. Red and blue light flashed at the far end, growing brighter by the second. Police. Wrong kind of help. Tommaso's hand came up, gripping my wrist. Not hard, just enough to anchor me. Chiara, look at me. I did. His face was pale now, jaw clenched, eyes sharp with pain he refused to acknowledge. A man holding himself upright on stubbornness alone. We can't be here when they arrive, he said. You understand that. Yes, I whispered, but you can't move like this. I can move, he replied. I always do. I hated him in that moment. For the certainty, for the refusal to fall, for the way he'd already decided he'd bleed out quietly if it meant keeping me safe. Footsteps echoed somewhere beyond the alley mouth. Tommaso swore under his breath and scanned the fire escapes above us. There. I followed his gaze. Metal stairs zigzagging up the brick wall, rusted and narrow, barely lit by the flickering lamp. You expect me to climb that? I demanded. I expect you to survive, he shot back. Another siren. Closer now. I tightened my grip on him. Then lean on me. He hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. Then his arm slid around my shoulders. Heavy, solid, terrifying in its weakness. We moved together, slow at first, then faster as adrenaline shoved pain aside. I hauled him toward the fire escape, my muscles screaming, my breath burning, my mind locked on one thing only. Don't let him fall. Metal groaned as we climbed. My hands slipped once, skin scraping, pain flaring, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. Halfway up, Tommaso's breath hitched. Stay with me, I said urgently, not caring how desperate I sounded. You don't get to disappear on me now. A rough sound left his throat. I'm not going anywhere. We reached the landing just as police voices echoed into the alley below. Clear the area! I pushed him through the open window at the top of the stairs, tumbling into darkness after him. The space inside was cramped, a forgotten storage room filled with dust and old crates. The smell of oil and rot clung to the air. Tommaso collapsed against the wall, sliding down slowly. My heart slammed. No, I said, dropping to my knees in front of him. No, no, no. I'm fine, he said through clenched teeth. You're bleeding through your jacket? I shot back, ripping it open with shaking hands. The wound was ugly but not catastrophic. Still bleeding. Still dangerous. I pressed my scarf against it without thinking, applying pressure like I'd seen in movies, like instinct had taken over where reason failed. Tommaso hissed but didn't stop me. That hurts, he muttered. Good, I snapped, tears blurring my vision. That means you're awake. His mouth twitched despite everything. Sirens roared below us. Radios crackled. Doors slammed. They'll sweep the building, he said. We have minutes. Then talk to me, I demanded. Tell me what happens next. His gaze locked onto mine, intense even now. Next, we disappear. My stomach clenched. Like ghosts. Yes. And the baby? I whispered, my hand drifting to my stomach, fear clawing up my spine. What if the stress? What if... He covered my hand with his own blood-smudged fingers warm against my skin. Our child is strong, he said fiercely. Just like you. The words hit harder than any bullet. Our child. Not my heir. Not the baby. Our. I sucked in a shaky breath. You said this war was about inheritance, I said quietly. About making sure the baby never lived long enough to claim anything. Yes. And Raffaele, I continued, voice trembling with fury. He helped kill your first family. Tommaso's jaw tightened. He opened the door that night. Rage burned through me, hot, blinding, protective in a way I'd never felt before. They're not just trying to kill you, I said. They're trying to erase you and replace me, he finished. I looked at him, this man who dragged me into darkness and then wrapped himself around me like a shield, and something inside me hardened. Then they won't, I said. His eyes narrowed slightly. Chiara, they won't, I repeated. Not you, not our child, not me. A sudden pounding echoed through the building. Boots on stairs. Tommaso swore. We're out of time. He pushed himself to his feet, swaying. I stood with him, bracing his weight again. How? I asked. He glanced at a metal door at the back of the room. Service tunnel. Old. Forgotten. And if it's blocked? Then we make noise somewhere else and vanish in the confusion. I stared at him. You planned this. I planned for everything, he said grimly. We moved again, slipping through the door and into a narrow concrete tunnel that smelled of damp earth and rust. Pipes lined the walls overhead. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness, counting down seconds we didn't have. My heart pounded so loud I was sure it would give us away. Tommaso, I whispered as we walked, if this keeps escalating, if my brother doesn't stop. He won't, Tommaso said immediately. Not now. Then what happens to me? I asked. He slowed, turning to face me fully despite the pain. You become untouchable. I let out a bitter laugh. You already said that. And now I mean it differently, he said. The tunnel lights flickered as we passed beneath them. I'm not hiding you anymore, he continued. Not behind walls, not behind lies. I'm pulling you into the center. Fear spiked. That's exactly where people die. Yes, he said. And it's also where power consolidates. The implications crashed over me. You're going to make me visible, I whispered. Not just as your wife. As my equal, he said. The words stole my breath. Tommaso, I said softly, your world doesn't forgive women. No, he agreed, but it fears them when they don't break. We reached the end of the tunnel. A rusted door cracked open to a quiet side street far from the gallery. No sirens here, no shouting. For now. Tommaso leaned heavily against the wall, breathing hard. I steadied him, my own legs trembling. We need help, I said. A doctor. I know someone, he replied. Off the books. I nodded, then hesitated. There's something else, I said. He looked at me sharply. What? I swallowed. When the shooting started, I felt a sharp pain. Just for a second. Every muscle in his body went rigid. Where? He asked quietly. My stomach, I said. It passed. But his hand was on me instantly, firm but gentle, eyes scanning my face with terrifying focus. Are you bleeding? He asked. No, I said quickly. No, I don't think so. He held my gaze for a long second, then exhaled slowly. We don't take chances. Fear curled cold in my chest. Tommaso, if anything happens to you, he said, voice deadly calm, there won't be enough men left alive to remember why. The certainty in his words steadied me and scared me all over again. Because this wasn't just a war anymore. It was a promise written in blood. As we stepped out into the quiet street and disappeared into the city, one truth settled deep in my bones. They hadn't just tried to kill my husband today. They had activated something far more dangerous. They had given Tommaso Pialo a reason to stop playing defense. And once he went on offense, no one would be safe.
Pain sharpened the world into edges. That was how I knew I was still alive. Every breath pulled fire through my side as we slipped into the back of the unmarked car Luca had staged 3 streets over. The door shut, engine turning over immediately, tires rolling before the echo settled. Clean, quiet, efficient. Chiara sat beside me, her hand still pressed to my wound, eyes flicking constantly between my face and her stomach like she was counting heartbeats. Mine. Then the baby's. I let her, because if I closed my eyes, I wasn't sure I'd open them again. Pressure, I muttered. Harder. She swallowed and pressed down, jaw tight, knuckles white. She didn't cry, didn't panic, just adjusted and held. Good. The car weaved through traffic, smooth and deliberate. Luca's voice came through the speaker, calm in the way only men who had survived too much could manage. Doctor is standing by. Private residence. 10 minutes. Make it 5, I said. A pause. Done. Chiara's fingers trembled slightly. You don't sound fine. I don't need to, I replied. I just need to last. Her eyes snapped to mine. You don't get to talk like that. I get to talk however I want, I said quietly. I'm the one bleeding. Her mouth tightened. You're also the one who keeps promising to come back. That landed harder than the bullet. I shifted, forcing myself more upright. Look at me. She did. I'm not dying tonight, I said. I don't break promises that matter. She searched my face, looking for lies. Found none. The car slowed, then turned sharply into a gated driveway that looked abandoned from the street. Inside, lights snapped on as we approached. A house that hadn't existed 5 minutes ago, if you didn't know how to look. The door opened before the car stopped. An older man waited inside, sleeves already rolled up, eyes assessing damage with surgical calm. Inside, he said. Chiara helped me out. I leaned on her more than I wanted to. More than pride allowed. The doctor worked fast, cutting fabric, cleaning the wound, stitching with hands that didn't shake. I focused on the ceiling, on breathing through my teeth, on not letting my mind drift back to the gallery floor slick with blood that wasn't all mine. Bullet passed clean, the doctor said eventually. No organ damage. You're lucky. I laughed softly. No. I'm prepared. He glanced at Chiara. She needs checking too. My head snapped up. She said she wasn't bleeding. She said, the doctor replied calmly. Humor me. Chiara met my gaze. Hesitated. Then nodded. The doctor examined her carefully, his movements gentle, respectful. I watched every second. Every breath she took. Finally, he straightened. No bleeding. Pulse is elevated, but that's expected. Stress can cause sharp pain without injury. Relief hit me so hard my vision blurred. Chiara exhaled shakily, one hand immediately returning to her stomach. The doctor packed his kit. She needs rest. Both of you do. We don't rest, I said. He didn't argue. Smart man. When he left, the room fell quiet except for the hum of the city outside, life continuing oblivious. Chiara sat on the edge of the bed across from me, shoulders slumped now that adrenaline had burned out. They planned it, she said softly. Yes. They knew your routes. Yes. They knew you'd bring me. Yes. She looked up, eyes fierce through exhaustion. Then this wasn't about scaring you. No, I agreed. It was about teaching me a lesson. And did it work? She asked. I stood slowly, testing the stitches. Pain flared. I ignored it. They wanted me reactive, I said. Emotional. Sloppy. Her lips parted. And are you? I crossed the room until I stood in front of her. No, I said. I'm focused. That scared her more than rage ever could. Tommaso, she whispered, what are you going to do? I crouched in front of her, taking her hands carefully, like I was holding something precious instead of something that could destroy me. I'm ending this, I said. Not tomorrow. Not eventually. Now. Her fingers tightened around mine. My brother is one piece, I cut in. Not the whole board. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You think there's someone above him? I know there is, I replied. Raphael didn't act alone. He was a door, not the hand. And the hand? She asked. I stood, turning away as the shape of the truth locked into place. The families who benefit if my bloodline ends, I said. The men who thought my first child was enough. Chiara rose behind me. They won't stop. No, I agreed. So I won't either. Silence stretched. Then she said the words I hadn't expected. Then stop trying to protect me by keeping me ignorant. I turned slowly. Her chin was lifted, spine straight, eyes steady. No fear. No denial. You want me in the center, she continued. You want me visible. Untouchable. Yes. Then I need to know what that costs, she said. Because I won't be your weakness. The baby shifted beneath her hand, present, alive, grounding. I stepped closer, placing my palm over hers. You are not my weakness, I said quietly. You are my line. Her breath caught. The line they crossed, I continued. And the line I will defend. A knock came at the door. Luca stepped inside, his face grim. Boss, we confirmed it. Say it. The hit at the gallery wasn't sanctioned by the Romano Council, Luca said. Your brother didn't order the kill. Chiara froze. What? She whispered. Luca went on. Someone higher used Romano men without permission. They wanted deniability. I closed my eyes briefly. There it was. They wanted a war without fingerprints, Chiara said softly. Yes, I replied. And they wanted me blamed for it. She looked at me, understanding dawning. So if you strike back wrong, I become the villain, I finished. And they inherit the ashes. Luca nodded. We have names. 3 families. Old money. Quiet. Bring me everything, I said. Finances. Movements. Weak points. He hesitated. This will be loud. No, I corrected. It will be surgical. Luca left. Chiara stared at me for a long moment. You're not going to burn the world down. I shook my head. No, you're going to carve it. Yes. She stepped closer, pressing her forehead to my chest carefully, mindful of the wound. I don't want our child raised in blood, she whispered. I rested my chin on her head. Then I make sure there's no one left to spill it. Outside, sirens faded into distance. Inside, the war changed shape. They thought today was the opening strike. They were wrong. It was permission. And now that permission had been granted, I would take everything from the men who tried to end my family, quietly, completely, and without mercy. Because this time, I wasn't fighting to survive. I was fighting to secure a future. And no one, no brother, no counsel, no ghost from my past, was taking that from me.
Power has a sound. I didn't know that before Tommaso Pialo's war room. It wasn't loud. It wasn't shouting or gunfire or the slam of doors. It was quieter than that. Low voices, steady footsteps, the soft click of screens lighting up with information that could ruin lives. It sounded like inevitability. I stood at the edge of the room with my arms wrapped around myself, watching men move around a long black table like planets orbiting a sun. Maps glowed. Names appeared and disappeared. Photos of men I'd never met and suddenly hated lined the screens. 3 families, old money, quiet power, the ones who wanted Tommaso dead without ever getting their hands dirty. And me erased along with him. My stomach tightened, and not just from nerves. I pressed a hand there instinctively, grounding myself in the one thing that mattered more than any of this. Still here, I told the baby silently. I've got you. Tommaso stood at the head of the table, jacket off, shirt still marked faintly with blood despite the fresh stitches beneath. He looked different, not wounded, focused. This wasn't the man who dragged me through smoke and gunfire. This was the man everyone feared. And the Romano Council? Tommaso asked calmly. Luca answered. They're furious. They didn't sanction the hit. Your brother's being squeezed from both sides. My chest tightened at the mention of him. So he's not in control, Tommaso said. No, Luca confirmed. He's reacting. Tommaso nodded once. Good. The word chilled me. I stepped forward before I could stop myself. What does that mean for him? The room stilled. Every eye turned to me. I didn't flinch. Tommaso looked at me, something unreadable passing through his gaze. It means he's vulnerable. And what are you going to do with that vulnerability? I asked. The question wasn't accusatory. It was necessary. Tommaso held my gaze for a long moment, then said, Use it. A murmur rippled through the room. My spine straightened. To kill him. Silence snapped tight. Luca shifted uncomfortably. A few men looked away. Tommaso didn't. No, he said. Not yet. Not yet. I swallowed. Then what? I'm going to make him choose. Tommaso replied. The words echoed in my bones. Choose what? I pressed. He gestured to the screens. Them. Or you. My breath caught. You're putting me back in the middle, I said quietly. Yes, he answered without hesitation. Anger flared. Hot, sharp, immediate. You said I wouldn't be used. I said you wouldn't be a weapon against me, he corrected. There's a difference. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You don't get to decide that difference alone. A beat. Then Tommaso did something that stunned everyone in the room. He turned fully toward me, not away from the table. Not dismissive, present. You're right, he said. The room froze. I don't, he continued. Which is why you're here. My heart stuttered. Here, how? He reached out. Not touching, but close enough that I felt the warmth of him. Sit. He gestured to the chair beside him at the head of the table. Shock rippled openly now. Luca's brows shot up. Someone inhaled sharply. I didn't move. You want me visible? I said. Equal. This is what that looks like. Tommaso nodded. Yes. Fear curled in my stomach, tight and cold. But underneath it, something else. Strength. I walked to the chair and sat. The room adjusted instantly. Screens shifted. Data reorganized to face both of us. I placed my hands on the table, steadying myself. Explain, I said. Tommaso pointed to one of the families. They move money through hospitals. My jaw clenched. Another screen lit up. This one controls shipping insurance. Another. This one owns private security firms. They don't pull triggers, I said softly. They pull strings. Yes, Tommaso replied, and they believe women are leverage. My fingers curled slightly. They're not wrong. He looked at me sharply. They're wrong about me, I clarified, but not about the tactic. A flicker of something like pride crossed his face. I want them to think you're exposed, Tommaso said. I want them to panic, make mistakes. And how do you plan to do that? I asked. He didn't answer. He slid a phone across the table toward me. My breath caught when I saw what was on the screen. A drafted press release, a single photo embedded at the top. Me and Tommaso, taken outside the gallery weeks ago, before everything exploded. His hand on my back. My face turned slightly toward him. Intimate. Clear. Unmistakable. Mafia King confirms heir. Public appearance announced. My pulse roared in my ears. You want to announce me? I whispered. Publicly. Yes, and the baby. Yes. That's not visibility, I said. That's a target painted in permanent ink. Tommaso leaned closer, his voice low and controlled. It's a line in the sand. I looked around the room at the men watching us, at the screens mapping out power like a chessboard. You're turning me into a symbol, I said. Yes, he said again. And symbols get destroyed. He met my gaze without blinking. Only if they stand alone. The room felt suddenly too small. You want me to do this? I asked. I want you to choose it, he replied. Silence stretched. My heart hammered. My thoughts raced. Fear for my child. Fear for myself. Fear for the brother who'd already lost me once and might lose me forever if I stepped into this light. But there was something else, too. Anger. At being hunted. At being hidden. At men deciding my worth like it was currency. I placed my hand over my stomach, feeling the steady, stubborn presence beneath. No more cages, I said quietly. Tommaso's breath stilled. No more, I repeated, louder now. If I do this, it's not as your shield, it's not as bait. Then, as what? Luca asked carefully. I lifted my chin. As your wife. The word landed heavy and irrevocable. As the mother of your child, I continued, and as a woman who refuses to disappear so powerful men can sleep easier. Tommaso stared at me like I'd just crossed the line he'd been guarding. Then, slowly, he nodded. Then we do it your way, he said. My chest tightened. Which is? I leaned forward, my voice steady, despite the fear screaming in my veins. We announce the heir, I said, but I speak. A ripple of surprise went through the room. Tommaso's eyes sharpened. You want the microphone? Yes, I said. I want them to hear me. Not rumors, not threats. Me. Silence. Then Tommaso said, very quietly, That's dangerous. I met his gaze. So is underestimating me. A long beat passed. Then he turned to Luca. Prepare it. Luca hesitated. Boss. Prepare it. Tommaso repeated. Luca nodded once. Yes. The room shifted again. Energy tightening. Plans were forming around a new center. Around me. Tommaso leaned closer, his voice just for me now. Once you step into this, there's no going back. I didn't look away. I know. And if they come harder, then they reveal themselves faster, I said. And you end them. Something fierce and reverent flashed across his face. You were never meant to be hidden, he said quietly. I felt the truth of it settle deep in my bones. As the men dispersed and plans moved forward, Tommaso stayed beside me, his hand hovering near mine, not touching, but there. Protective, respectful, equal. Outside, the city kept breathing, unaware that a war had just changed shape. They thought I was the weakness. They were wrong. I wasn't the reason Tommaso Pialo would fall. I was the reason he would win. And tomorrow, when I stood in front of cameras and spoke my truth into a world that wanted me silent, they would learn exactly what kind of mistake they'd made.
The war room emptied, but the tension stayed. It clung to the walls, the air, the quiet after men left with orders that would ruin lives. I stood there longer than necessary, watching Chiara from the corner of my eye as she gathered herself, one hand on the table, the other resting over her stomach like a promise she'd made to herself. She had just claimed a seat at my side in front of men who feared me, and she hadn't shaken. That should have been enough for one night. It wasn't. "Come with me," I said quietly. She looked up, searched my face. Whatever she saw there made her nod without question. We didn't speak as we walked through the penthouse. The lights were lower here, softer, the kind meant for rest, not strategy. When I closed the bedroom door behind us, the click sounded louder than it should have. Final. Chiara turned to face me, her spine straight, chin lifted, eyes bright with adrenaline and something else, something deeper. "You meant it," she said softly. "Making me visible." "Yes." "And letting me speak." "Yes." She took a step closer. "You didn't hesitate." I exhaled slowly. "I did. Just not where anyone could see." Her lips curved, not a smile. Something more fragile. More real. "I chose this," she said. "You know that." "I do. And I'm not choosing it out of fear." I closed the distance between us then, stopping just short of touching her. "I know." Her breath caught. The space between us felt charged, like everything we'd survived had been pushing us toward this moment, whether we were ready or not. "Tommaso," she whispered, "look at me." I did. Really looked. Not as leverage. Not as strategy. Not as the woman carrying my child. As her. Her eyes were dark, steady, full of something that felt like trust sharpened by defiance. The kind that didn't come easily and didn't break quietly. "I'm still afraid," she said. "So am I," I replied. That admission loosened something between us. She reached for me first. Her fingers slid into my hair, slow and deliberate, anchoring me to her like she was afraid I'd disappear if she didn't. The touch detonated low in my chest. Heat, want, something I'd buried with my dead. I didn't pull away. I leaned in. Our mouths met, not gentle, not rushed. Intentional. Her lips were warm, soft, opening under mine as if she'd already decided how this would go. I tasted her breath, felt the tremor in her hands as I slid one palm to her waist, careful of her body, reverent of what it carried. She made a small sound against my mouth, surprised, breathy, and tightened her grip in my hair. That sound nearly undid me. I kissed her again, deeper this time, my thumb brushing along her jaw, tilting her face just enough to claim the angle I wanted. She followed instinctively, trusting me, choosing me with every step she took backward until the backs of her knees hit the bed. She didn't fall. I guided her down. She lay against the sheets, dark hair fanned around her shoulders, chest rising fast. I hovered over her, braced on my forearms, giving her space even as my body demanded more. "Tell me to stop," I said quietly. Her eyes locked onto mine. "Don't." The word came out on a breathy hitch that sliced straight through my restraint. I kissed her again, slower now, deeper, my mouth trailing from her lips to her cheek, then her jaw. When I kissed her neck, she gasped, fingers curling into my shoulders like she needed something solid to hold on to. "Tommaso," she breathed. I pressed my forehead to hers, breathing her in, grounding myself. "You're safe," I murmured. "I've got you." Her hands slid down my back, deliberate, choosing. I know. That was it. Not surrender. Decision. I lowered myself beside her, drawing her with me so she could feel the steady thrum of my heart. She fit there like she'd always known the shape of me, her head resting against my chest, my arm wrapped securely around her back. We kissed again, less urgency now, more depth. Her mouth learned mine with quiet confidence, her body warm and alive against me. I traced slow lines along her arm, her shoulder, my touch speaking where words couldn't. She shifted, fitting closer, choosing closeness over distance. "I could walk away," she whispered, as if testing the truth of it. I stilled. "Yes, but I won't," she said, lifting her head so I had to look at her. "Not from you." My chest tightened painfully. "Say it," I asked, not sure I deserved it, needing it anyway. She swallowed, eyes shining. "I choose you." The words hit harder than any vow. I kissed her like a promise, slow, deep, unbreakable, my hand threading through her hair, holding her there as if the world could try all it wanted, but it would not take her from me. She kissed me back just as fiercely, breath hitching again, body pressing close in a way that spoke of trust, of want, of a future neither of us had planned, but both of us were now fighting for. When we finally broke apart, we stayed like that, foreheads touching, breaths tangled, hearts loud in the quiet room. Outside, the city waited. Enemies plotted. Wars prepared to burn. But here, just for this moment, there was only her choice and the truth of it settling deep into my bones. They could come for my power. They could come for my crown. But Chiara Romano, my wife, my equal, the woman who had just chosen me, she was mine. And for the first time since I'd lost everything, I let myself believe I was hers too.
The cameras didn't blink. That was the first thing I noticed when I stepped onto the terrace the next morning. The way the lenses stared back at me, glassy and unfeeling, waiting to decide who I was allowed to be. Wife. Air bearer. Target. Tommaso stood at my side, immaculately composed, dark suit sharp against the pale city behind us. His hand rested at the small of my back. Not possessive, not guiding. Steady. I drew a breath and placed my palm over his hand. We do this together. The terrace overlooked the river, sunlight glinting off the water like nothing in the world was wrong. Below us, reporters murmured. Phones lifted. Whispers rippled. Power had a sound. So did fear. Whenever you're ready, someone said quietly. Tommaso looked at me, not asking. Waiting. I stepped forward. The murmur stilled. I won't keep this long, I said, my voice carrying farther than I expected. Calm, clear, mine. Because I'm not here to perform. A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. I'm Chiara Pialo, I continued. The name still felt new on my tongue, but it didn't feel wrong. I'm here because there's been a lot of speculation about my marriage, my pregnancy, and what it means. Cameras clicked faster. I won't answer questions about violence, I said. I won't respond to threats. And I won't pretend I'm unaware of what kind of world my husband lives in. Tommaso's presence at my back grounded me, a solid wall of heat and control. But I will say this, I went on, my hand drifting instinctively to my stomach. I chose this life with my eyes open. I chose my husband. And I choose to protect my child. The words settled like a challenge. If anyone believes that makes me weak, I said softly, they're welcome to test that assumption. Silence fell. Heavy. Final. I stepped back. Tommaso moved then. Just half a step forward. Just enough to signal that this was finished. That the line had been drawn and crossing it would be a mistake no one survived twice. We left without questions. Inside, the penthouse felt too quiet after the roar of attention. Doors closed. Security lockdown. Phones started ringing immediately. Names I didn't recognize. Numbers that shouldn't have had access this fast. Tommaso ignored them all. He turned to me, his gaze sharp, searching. You okay? Yes, I said honestly. Then, after a beat, no. He nodded like that was the only acceptable answer. He guided me to the couch and sat beside me, close enough that our knees touched. His hand found mine again, fingers threading through like it was instinct now. You did exactly what we needed, he said. What you needed. I corrected. A corner of his mouth lifted. What we needed. That word again. We. It felt heavier now. Earned. A knock sounded. Luca entered, phone already in hand, his expression tight. It worked. Tommaso didn't ask how. They're panicking, Luca continued. Money's moving. Security details changing. And he hesitated, glancing at me. Say it, I said. Romano channels are on fire, Luca said. Your brother's furious. My chest tightened. At me? At losing control, Luca replied. You took the narrative. Tommaso's thumb brushed over my knuckles, grounding. And, Luca added, we intercepted a message. He handed Tommaso the phone. I watched Tommaso's face harden as he read. What is it? I asked. Tommaso met my eyes. An invitation. My pulse spiked. To what? To prove you meant what you said. He replied. I exhaled slowly. They're calling me out. Yes. Publicly? No, he said. Privately, which makes it worse. I stood before fear could root me in place. Then we don't go. Tommaso's gaze softened, but only slightly. If we don't, they'll interpret it as hesitation. And if we do, I demanded. They'll test you, he said. And me. Luca cleared his throat. It's a charity gala, old money, clean faces, dirty intentions. Of course it was. I looked at Tommaso, really looked at him. The man who'd shielded me with his body. The man I'd chosen last night without hesitation. You said I wouldn't be hidden, I said quietly. Yes. And you said I'd be untouchable. Yes. I took a breath. Then we go. Tommaso's jaw tightened. Chiara! I won't be paraded, I said. I won't smile and pretend, but I will stand next to you. Luca studied me like he was seeing me for the first time. They won't expect that. Good, I said. He nodded and left. When the door closed, the tension snapped. Tommaso turned to me, his hands coming up to my arms, firm and warm. You don't have to keep proving yourself. I'm not, I said. I'm deciding. He searched my face, then pulled me into him. Slow, careful, protective. I rested my forehead against his chest, breathing him in, letting the steady beat beneath me remind me that this was real. Last night, I said softly, I chose you. His arms tightened. I know. Today, I continued, I choose us. His breath hitched, just once. He tilted my face up and kissed me, deep and grounding, like an anchor dropped in stormy water. I melted into it, my hands sliding into his hair again, the world narrowing to heat and breath and certainty. When we parted, I stayed close, my voice low. Whatever comes next, don't shut me out. I won't, he said, not again. Outside, the city adjusted to the new reality we'd just forced on it. Inside, my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I stared at it, then looked at Tommaso. Answer it, he said quietly. I did. My brother's voice came through, controlled, tight. You've made yourself very visible. Yes, I said. I learned from the best. A pause. You don't understand what you've done. I understand perfectly, I replied. You don't control me anymore, his breath sharpened. You think standing next to him makes you safe. I glanced at Tommaso, his presence solid at my side. No, I said. It makes me chosen. The line went dead. I lowered the phone, heart pounding. Tommaso kissed my temple, his voice low and fierce. They just realized something. What? I asked. That you're not the pressure point, he said. You're the pivot. I rested my hand over my stomach, feeling the quiet strength there. Let them learn. Because the woman they thought they could use had stepped into the light, and she wasn't stepping back. Not now. Not ever.
The gala was a slaughterhouse dressed in silk. Crystal chandeliers, white marble floors, men in tailored suits and women in diamonds heavy enough to buy cities. Charity banners hung from the walls like absolution purchased in advance. Every face smiled. Every heartbeat lied. I stood at the top of the stairs with Chiara at my side, my hand resting lightly at her lower back. Not guiding, not restraining, anchoring. The room shifted the second we appeared. Conversations stuttered. Eyes lifted. Calculations began. They had expected spectacle. They hadn't expected her. Chiara wore black, clean lines, no excess, nothing fragile about it. Her hair was swept back, her posture calm, her presence unmistakable. She didn't cling to me. She didn't hide behind me. She stood with me. And that unnerved them far more than fear ever could. I leaned in, my mouth close to her ear. Stick to my left. If I squeeze your hand once, we move. Twice, we leave. She nodded slightly. And if I squeeze yours? I glanced at her. Then I listen. A murmur rippled through the crowd as we descended the stairs. Good. Let them whisper. I scanned the room automatically. Exits, balconies, reflections in glass. My men were positioned where they belonged, invisible to anyone not trained to see violence in the margins. The first approach came quickly. A man with silver hair and polite eyes stepped forward, champagne in hand. Old money. One of the three. Tommaso, he said warmly. So good of you to support such a worthy cause. I smiled without warmth. I enjoy honesty in accounting. His smile faltered, just enough. And this must be your wife, he said, turning to Chiara. Congratulations. She met his gaze without blinking. Thank you. No tremor. No softness. He studied her for a beat too long. Mistake. Careful, I said quietly. Staring is rude. He chuckled, retreating a step. Of course. But his eyes had sharpened. Test 1 complete. We moved deeper into the room. Laughter brushed our shoulders. Music swelled and softened. Every step was deliberate. Then I felt it. A shift in the air. I tightened my hand at Chiara's back. Once. She leaned closer. What? Someone's out of place, I murmured. Her breath stayed steady. Where? Balcony. 3 o'clock. She didn't look. Good. A server passed us with a tray of drinks, too stiff, too alert. Not staff. My gaze tracked him until he disappeared behind a pillar. I signaled subtly. Luca would see it. Tommaso, a familiar voice drawled. I turned. Her brother stood near the bar, dark suit immaculate, expression carefully neutral. No smile this time. No charm. Just tension. Chiara felt him before she saw him. I felt it in the way her spine straightened, in the slight hitch of her breath. Brother, she said evenly. Chiara, he replied. You look confident. She didn't rise to it. I am. His eyes flicked to her stomach. Back to me. You're enjoying this. No, I said. I'm finishing it. His jaw tightened. You think standing next to him makes you powerful? Chiara answered before I could. No. I think knowing my worth does. A few nearby conversations went quiet. Good. He leaned closer to her, lowering his voice. You don't know who you're standing in front of. Chiara lifted her chin. I do. I stepped in then, closing the distance just enough to remind him where the line was. Say what you came to say. His gaze locked onto mine. You've made enemies you can't see. I smiled faintly. I can see them just fine. That was when Luca's voice murmured in my earpiece. Balcony confirmed. Shooter. Clean sight line. My pulse went razor sharp. I squeezed Chiara's hand twice. She didn't hesitate. We turned together, smooth, unhurried, walking away from her brother as if nothing had happened, as if this were all theater. Behind us, chaos waited. As we reached the center of the room, a sudden crack split the air. Not loud enough to be obvious. Suppressed. Glass shattered behind us. I moved instantly, pulling Chiara into me, my body turning to shield as I drove us down behind a marble column. Screams erupted. Music cut. The room exploded into panic. My men moved fast. Too fast for civilians to track. I felt Chiara's hands grip my jacket, tight but steady. I'm okay, she breathed. I checked her without looking. Stay down. Another shot. Closer. I returned fire toward the balcony without hesitation. A body fell back out of sight. Exit now, Lucas snapped in my ear. Secondary route. I rose, hauling Chiara with me. One arm locked around her waist as we pushed through the panicking crowd. She stayed close, moving when I moved, trusting me with a clarity that burned. We burst through a service door into a quiet corridor just as alarms began to wail. I slammed the door shut behind us. For a moment, there was only our breathing. Chiara looked up at me, eyes bright, fierce, alive. They tried. Yes, I said, and failed. Her hand slid to her stomach instinctively, then back to my chest. This is what they meant. Yes. She didn't pull away. She stepped closer instead, pressing her forehead to mine despite the sirens, despite the war unfolding around us. They wanted to scare me, she said. I cupped her face, my thumb brushing her cheekbone. They underestimated you. Her breath hitched just once. Tommaso, she whispered, if this keeps escalating. It will, I said. And if it costs you everything? I leaned in, my voice low and absolute. Then everything was already worth it. She searched my face, then nodded, decision settling deep. I'm not leaving, she said. I didn't ask her to. I kissed her, quick, fierce, grounding. Right there in the corridor as alarms screamed and men hunted us. When we broke apart, she rested her hand over my heart, steadying. Let them come, she said softly. I smiled, cold and certain. They already had. And now they'd learned the truth too late. This war wasn't about breaking me. It was about surviving what I would do to protect her.
By the time the sirens faded, the city had already decided what the gala would be remembered as. A security scare. A misunderstanding. A rumor quickly buried under donor lists and polished statements. The truth was quieter. Someone had tried to kill my husband again. And failed. The car ride back to the penthouse was silent, except for the steady rhythm of Tommaso's breathing beside me. He sat close, one arm stretched along the back of the seat behind me, not touching. But there if I leaned. Not because I was weak, because I chose to. You didn't hesitate, I said softly. He glanced at me. Neither did you. I wasn't scared, I admitted. Not the way I expected. His brow furrowed. That worries me. It shouldn't, I replied. It means I trust you. The words settled between us, like a vow neither of us had spoken out loud. Back in the penthouse, security sealed the floor in seconds. Luca briefed Tommaso in low tones near the windows while I drifted toward the bedroom, the adrenaline finally bleeding out of my veins. My hands shook, not from fear, from aftermath. Tommaso joined me minutes later, loosening his tie as he walked. He watched me closely, like he was cataloging every breath, every blink. You holding together? He asked. Yes, I said honestly, then added, barely. He nodded once, understanding exactly what that meant. Come here, he said. I did. He pulled me into his chest, slow and careful, his palm sliding up and down my back in a grounding rhythm. I pressed my cheek against him, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne and gun oil, and something darker underneath, something that belonged only to him. I keep thinking, I murmured. What if next time? There won't be a next time like that, he said. That's not what I mean, I said, lifting my head to look at him. What if next time you don't get there in time? His jaw tightened. Chiara. I know you're powerful, I continued. I know you're prepared. But I also know you're human. Silence stretched. Then he said quietly, that's why this ends soon. Not if. When. I studied his face, the shadows under his eyes, the faint bruise along his jaw from earlier chaos. How? By removing the center, he replied. The family's behind the curtain. And my brother? I asked softly. His gaze held mine. He's a symptom. That hurt more than I expected. I stepped back, wrapping my arms around myself. He used to read me stories when I was little. Tommaso didn't interrupt. He taught me how to ride a bike. I went on. How to throw a punch. He was already dangerous, but he was still mine. Tommaso reached for me again, this time cupping my upper arms. And now? Now he looks at me like I'm something he lost control of, I said. And I don't know which version of him scares me more. Tommaso leaned in, resting his forehead against mine. Whatever happens with him, you won't face it alone. My breath hitched. You keep saying that, I whispered, like it's obvious. It is, he replied. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, something inside me had settled. I want you to know something, I said. He waited. If it comes down to it, if protecting me puts your empire at risk. I swallowed hard. I won't ask you to choose me over everything you built. His eyes darkened. You don't get to decide that. Tommaso, I already chose, he said quietly, long before the gala, long before the cameras. My chest tightened painfully. When? The night you said you chose me, he replied. That wasn't the beginning. It was confirmation. I stared at him, heart pounding. You terrify me, I said. A faint smile touched his mouth. Good. No, I said, pressing my hand to his chest. Because you could destroy everything, including yourself. He covered my hand with his own. I won't destroy us. The baby moved beneath my palm, a sudden, sharp reminder of stakes higher than pride or power. I inhaled shakily. They're not going to stop. No, he agreed, but they're running out of moves. A knock sounded at the door. Luca. Tommaso turned his head slightly. Speak. We confirmed the shooter, Luca said. Not Romano. One of the 3 families. He didn't expect resistance. Tommaso's mouth curved into something cold. They never do. And, Luca added, your brother's been summoned by the council. He's in trouble. My stomach twisted. Because of me. Because he lost control. Tommaso corrected. I closed my eyes briefly. When I opened them, resolve had replaced grief. Then it started, I said. Yes, Tommaso replied. The end. Luca left. I looked at my husband, this man I'd been forced to marry, then chosen anyway, and felt the truth settle deep. I don't want to survive this, I said softly. He frowned. What? I want to live after it, I clarified. I want a life that isn't just threats and exits and contingency plans. His gaze softened, not weak, but real. Then I'll build it. For us? I asked. For you, he said. And the child. I'll earn my way into it. Emotion surged, sharp and overwhelming. I stepped into him again, holding on like the world could try whatever it wanted. But it wouldn't take this from me. Outside, the city buzzed with gossip and lies. Inside, the war narrowed its focus. They had taken their shots. Now Tommaso Pialo was done waiting. And I knew, deep in my bones, that whatever came next would decide not just who survived, but who ruled what was left behind.
By morning, the city was lying to itself again. News cycles spun the gala into background noise. Donors issued statements. Police called it a contained incident. No suspects. No names. Good. Silence was where men like me worked best. I stood at the window with coffee untouched, watching the river move like it always had, slow, inevitable, hiding everything beneath the surface. Behind me, Chiara slept, curled on her side, one hand resting over her stomach like instinct had rewritten her body's priorities overnight. That sight did something dangerous to me. It made the future feel real, and futures made men careless. I turned away before I let myself linger too long and walked into the adjoining office. Luca was already there, sleeves rolled up, tablet glowing with data that would ruin lives. "We're ready," he said. "Good," I replied. "Start with the insurance firm." Luca nodded. "Accounts are frozen. Audits triggered. Their private security contracts just evaporated. Quiet damage. No blood. No headlines. They'll feel it in hours," he added. "Days at most." "Good," I said again. "Pressure makes mistakes." "And your brother?" Luca asked. I stilled. "He's being isolated," Luca continued carefully. "Council's angry. They think he overreached." "He did," I said. "But he didn't plan the hit," Luca pressed. "He's not the architect." "No," I agreed. "He's the key." Luca frowned slightly. "You still think he doesn't know who is?" "I think," I said slowly, "that he knows more than he's admitting. And I think fear will loosen his tongue faster than loyalty." Luca hesitated. "Chiara, I won't involve her," I cut in. Luca held my gaze. "You already have." The words landed harder than I wanted them to. I exhaled through my nose. "I won't put her in front of him again. Not yet." Luca nodded, accepting it. "We intercepted another message last night." I looked at him sharply. "From who?" "From the same channels," he said. "Encrypted. Clean. Short." He slid the tablet toward me. "You can end this. Hand her over." My jaw locked. "They're escalating," Luca said. "They want her off the board." "They want leverage," I corrected. "They want me predictable. And they won't get either." I dismissed Luca with a nod and stood there alone for a moment, the glow of the screen reflecting back at me like a mirror I didn't recognize. Hand her over. They still didn't understand. Chiara wasn't something I possessed. She was something I protected. Something I'd chosen to build around instead of burn through. I heard soft footsteps behind me. I turned. Chiara stood in the doorway, wrapped in one of my shirts, hair loose, eyes sharp despite sleep still clinging to her. She looked like she belonged here in a way that terrified me. "You're planning without me," she said. "Yes." Her brow arched. "You promised not to do that." I set the tablet down and walked toward her, stopping just short of touching. "I promised not to shut you out. There's a difference." She crossed her arms. "Then talk." So I did. I told her about the pressure campaign, about the family's unraveling, about the message. Her face didn't pale. It hardened. "They want me," she said quietly. "They want to think they do," I replied. She stepped closer, close enough that I could see the resolve in her eyes. "And my brother?" "Yes." Her throat bobbed. "You're going to use him." "I'm going to confront him," I said. "There's a difference." She searched my face. "And if he breaks? Then we end this faster." "And if he doesn't?" she asked. I didn't answer immediately, because that answer was bloodier than she deserved. "Then I protect you anyway," I said finally. She studied me for a long beat, then nodded once. "I want to see him." My chest tightened. "No, I wasn't asking," she said calmly. "I need to look him in the eye and know whether he's already lost." "That's dangerous," I said. So is pretending he doesn't matter, she shot back. Silence stretched. She wasn't wrong. That was the worst part. We do it my way, I said at last. Controlled. Secure. 1 hour. She didn't smile. You always say that. And you always survive it, I replied. Her lips pressed together. Then she stepped into me, resting her forehead against my chest. Not for comfort. For connection. I won't be traded, she said quietly. Not for peace. Not for power. I cupped the back of her head, breathing her in. No one is trading you. Promise, she murmured. I closed my eyes briefly. I don't make promises. She tilted her head back, meeting my gaze. Then swear. The word felt heavier. Older. I leaned down until our foreheads touched. On my life, I said. No one takes you from me. Her breath hitched, not fear. Something else. Decision. She nodded once. Then I'm ready. For the rest of the morning, I moved pieces into place. Calls made. Doors closed. Traps laid with patience instead of rage. By afternoon, Luca returned with news that made my blood run cold. They've shifted tactics, he said. Explain. One of the families is leaking information, Luca continued. About Chiara. About the baby. My vision sharpened. To who? To law enforcement, he said. Child services. Financial crimes. Chiara stiffened beside me. They're trying to take my child, she said softly. I felt something snap inside my chest. No, I said, voice turning lethal. They're trying to provoke me. And will it work? Luca asked carefully. I looked at Chiara. At the woman who had stepped into my world without flinching. At the life growing inside her. Yes, I said quietly. It will. But not the way they expected. I turned to Luca. Activate phase 3. His eyes widened slightly. That's irreversible. Good, I replied. Chiara reached for my hand, squeezing once. Not fear. Resolve. Whatever you're about to do, she said softly. Do it knowing I'm still standing. I squeezed back. That's why I'm doing it. Outside, the city continued pretending nothing was wrong. Inside, the last illusion fell away. They had come for my family using laws and lies instead of bullets. They thought that made them untouchable. They were wrong. Because the moment they threatened my child, they stopped being enemies. They became a problem. And problems didn't survive men like me.
The knock came at 3 a.m, not loud, not rushed, just precise enough to make my heart stop before the sound finished echoing through the penthouse. I was awake already. I had been for hours, lying on my side with one hand over my stomach, the other curled into the sheets where Tommaso should have been. He'd been in the war room again. Phase 3, Luca had called it, the part no one explained out loud. Tommaso didn't come to bed when he was about to do something irreversible. I sat up as the knock came again. Tommaso appeared in the doorway before I could move, fully dressed, eyes sharp, already alert like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. Stay here, he said. I won't, I replied instantly. He didn't argue. That scared me more than shouting ever could. We walked together to the main living area, the lights dim, the city beyond the glass dark and watchful. Luca stood near the door, face pale, jaw tight. What happened? Tommaso asked. Luca exhaled. They moved first. My stomach clenched. Which one? Tommaso demanded. All of them, Luca said, simultaneously. My pulse roared in my ears. Moved how? Luca looked at me then, really looked at me, and something in his expression shifted. Say it, I said. They filed emergency motions. Luca continued. In 3 jurisdictions, alleging financial crimes, coercion, endangerment, and custody. I finished. The word tasted like blood. Yes, Luca said quietly. They're coming for the baby. The room tilted. I grabbed the back of a chair, breathing shallowly as panic surged hard and fast. They can't, I whispered. They don't even know my child yet. They don't need to, Luca replied. They just need a judge willing to listen. Tommaso's hand landed on my lower back, solid and grounding. Who signed? Luca swallowed. Your brother's name is on one of the affidavits. The silence that followed was deafening. My chest hurt like something inside it had cracked clean down the middle. He wouldn't, I said automatically. He wouldn't do that. Tommaso didn't contradict me. That hurt worse. He said he wanted me back. I continued, my voice shaking now. He said he wanted to protect me. Luca's voice was careful. This is protection, in his mind. My breath came out ragged. By taking my child? By removing you from Tommaso, Luca said. By breaking the alliance. Tommaso's jaw tightened until I thought his teeth might shatter. Where is he? Tommaso asked. Luca hesitated. In protective custody. I turned sharply. From who? Luca didn't answer. Tommaso did. From me. A cold, terrifying calm settled over Tommaso's features. The one I'd learned meant men died quietly. This was always his endgame, Tommaso said. Not war, control. No, I whispered. You're wrong. I stepped away from Tommaso before he could stop me, shaking my head. He wouldn't go this far. He wouldn't weaponize my pregnancy? Tommaso caught my wrist gently, but firmly. Chiara, I yanked my hand free. I need to hear. Do it from him. Lucas stiffened. That's not safe. I don't care, I snapped. I will not let you decide my brother's guilt without looking him in the eye. Tommaso stared at me for a long moment, something raw flickering beneath the steel. You go near him, he said slowly, and this stops being a chessboard. It already is, I said. You just don't want me to see the blood. Another knock interrupted us, harder this time. Security. A man stepped inside with a tablet, his voice tight. Boss, court order. Tommaso took the tablet. I watched his eyes move as he read, watched something dark and final settle in his expression. What is it? I demanded. He didn't answer immediately. Then he handed me the tablet. Emergency temporary custody order. Unborn child. My hands trembled as I read the words. Legal, cold, devastating. They weren't taking my baby now. They were laying the groundwork to take my baby later. I looked up at Tommaso, tears blurring my vision. They're planning to take my child from me. No, he said quietly. They're planning to make you choose. My heart slammed painfully. Choose what? Your child, he said, or me. The room felt too small to breathe. They want you to leave, Tommaso continued. Publicly, cleanly, they want you to testify, to denounce me. I shook my head violently. I would never. I know, he said, but they think I will, I whispered. Yes. And if I don't? My voice broke. Tommaso stepped closer, lowering his voice. Then they escalate. I pressed my palm to my stomach, fear clawing through me. They can't just take my baby. They can try, Tommaso said, and if they do, the state becomes involved. My knees went weak. Then everything burns, Tommaso finished. I stared at him, truly seeing the edge we were standing on. You're talking about war, I said. I'm talking about survival, he replied. Another voice cut through the tension. I knew you'd see it that way. Every muscle in my body locked. The voice came from the balcony. I turned slowly. My brother stood there, flanked by 2 guards I didn't recognize. Government issue, not Mafia. His suit was immaculate, his expression unreadable. Get out, Tommaso said calmly. This is a private residence. My brother's gaze never left mine. Not anymore. My blood ran cold. What did you do? I whispered. He stepped inside, eyes softening just enough to hurt. I protected you. You betrayed me, I said. He shook his head. You're pregnant with a criminal's child. Tommaso moved. I stepped between them without thinking. No, I said, my voice shaking but fierce. You don't get to rewrite my life. My brother looked at my stomach. That baby doesn't belong in this world. It belongs with me, I snapped. With us. He sighed, like this pained him. You're not thinking clearly. I have never been clearer, I said. You're trying to steal my child. I'm trying to save you, he insisted. Tommaso's voice dropped to something lethal. Touch her again with your words, and I'll forget every law you're hiding behind. My brother finally looked at him. You already lost one child. The words sliced the air open. Tommaso froze. I turned sharply. How do you know that? My brother's silence was answer enough. My stomach dropped. You knew, I whispered. You knew who ordered it. His jaw tightened. That's why you're doing this, I said, realization crashing through me. You're cleaning up your own mess. He looked at me, something like regret flashing in his eyes. And in that moment, I understood the truth. This wasn't about saving me. This was about burying the past. I will never give you my child, I said, my voice shaking with fury. Never. My brother's expression hardened. Then you leave me no choice. Luca swore under his breath. Tommaso went completely still. What choice? I demanded. My brother lifted his phone. A video filled the screen. A hospital room. Monitors. A woman screaming. My scream tore out of me as recognition hit. That's not possible, I sobbed. She's dead. She was, my brother said quietly. Until she wasn't. The screen zoomed in. A child. Alive. Breathing. Not mine. Tommaso's. The world collapsed. My brother's voice echoed like a death sentence. You have a living son, Tommaso, he said. And now, you have leverage. Tommaso's breath shattered the silence. And in that moment, I knew Book 3 wouldn't be about war. It would be about who survives the truth. If you made it to the end, you are invested in this story and want more. I thank you for spending your time with me. I post new Dark Mafia romance audiobooks 3 times a week, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Tell me in the comments, was Chiara right to run? And do you think Tommaso is finally changing? Or getting even darker? Your comments help YouTube recommend my stories to more listeners. And they also help me write the next book. And yes, Book 3 is coming. The secrets, the betrayal, the baby. Everything explodes in the next installment. Stay close. You're not ready for what happens next.